Welcome to the first episode of our podcast Beyond the Lobby. This man launched his online travel portal in the year 2000, long before online travel portals were mainstream. It's my pleasure to host the founder of MakeMyTrip, the Kalra.
So the first job I took up actually after I am Ahmedabad was in banking, but then I finally joined this company called AMF Bowling, make the family entertainment sport of 10-pin bowling popular in India. And at the end of finally 4 years and really a lot of struggle, कहते काफी जूते उसमें घिस गए, but we managed to get 200 lanes. So that was it. I think I had my maximum learning there, and I still didn't think I want to be an entrepreneur. And again, my driving force at that point of time was that the internet has to be cracked, and probably only a young agile company will be able to do it. And so then make my trip.
How did you zero down on travel? And within travel, how did you zero down on the idea of creating an online travel portal?
At that point of time, I said whatever's being done on the phone is more likely to move online for.
So mostly is people calling their travel agents to their addictions.
So that was one, and the other business idea I had was stockbroking. Online stockbroking would probably end up belonging to a large financial house.
On that note, I'm curious, why did not think that this segment would, by that logic, would be owned by somebody like a pharmaceutical?
Same reason why GE India couldn't crack the internet. Exactly the same. So that I was convinced that a large legacy company, and it's no one's fault. It's just how you are structured and how you think. You should be good at what you do. So I knew the large, big companies, and definitely not Cox and Kings, which doesn't even exist today. Some of the old other companies, they'd be very good at what they do, but adapting to this new medium is not that easy. It's not an e-brochure, as we all know. There's much more to it. And as you would have also seen, startups are the best placed to crack these things, because then you are fundamentally built as a tech company who happens to be in travel. And even today, that's how we see ourselves.
Take us through the first leg of your journey and MakeMyTrip, the initial 4 or 5 years. There are a lot of interesting stories that I've read in recent classes.
So I know that they spend a lot of time doing the same thing, and sometimes having less money available might be a blessing. If you're less money, I think sometimes with the back towards the wall, you come up with better solutions. 1st April 2000, went about first principles. They teach you an MBA, build a team, have to build a website. Let's outsource the website to someone who does a good job, give them this thing. So very quick, and got some good people. 7th October, we had launched the website for people coming to India, going out from India and traveling within India. I think things were moving pretty fast and well.
Welcome to the first episode of our podcast Beyond the Lobby. On this show, we host some of India's most iconic operators and leaders from the travel and hospitality segment. We are very fortunate to have such a distinguished guest tonight. This man launched his online travel portal in the year 2000, long before online travel portals were mainstream, long before VC and startups were commonly understood terms. 2.5 decades, that's almost like an eternity in the realm of startups and consumer internet ecosystem. But the journey was not straightforward. It was full and ups and downs. This man has seen more booms and busts than any of us in the ecosystem. The company, which is now has a market cap of about $10 billion, was once ready to be sold at $10 million. So it's my pleasure to host the founder of MakeMyTrip. Welcome on the show, Deep. So where do we start? Where do we start your story?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. I think the most exciting kind of podcasts are the ones when entrepreneurs are talking to entrepreneurs. And clearly, you're not, a professional podcaster. You'll get much better, but I hope you'll be a better entrepreneur. But I like what you're doing. And I'm very excited to talk about our journey. Yes, we're coming on to 25 years. So that's a huge milestone for any company, and especially for someone in the internet space.
Amazing. So let's start where it all started, Beep. Or actually, let's go even one step back. I think MakeMyTrip wasn't your first venture, right? Why don't you take us through your formative years of your career?
Sure. It was actually my first entrepreneurial venture, but not my first intrapreneurial. There was one intrapreneurial one in the middle, and I'll talk about that. So I did my high school, grew up in Delhi, did my high school in Delhi from St. Columba's School. I did economics from St. Stephen's College. I had a regret that I couldn't get into IIT. So I decided not to go to BITS or to DC for whatever reason. And then I did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. So, and all along, I was very sure that I'm going to have a corporate career, and this is what I'd like to do. I grew up in a upper middle class household. My father was in the private sector. My mother was a teacher, and so yeah, I think we had enough, and which made sure that you had the basics, your great education, touchwood, great values, etc., given by parents, but also meant when you come from a professional background that you have to build your own life. So I was very clear about that. So the first job I took up actually after IIM Ahmedabad was in banking, in corporate banking. I joined ABN AMRO Bank, which was a leading Dutch bank then, very good company, a very good bank, new to India. Um, and I must say, I really enjoyed the learning there. But very soon I realized that banking is not for me. I started to get bored pretty soon. After 2 years or so, I said, I can't be a banker all my life. I wanted some more action. And corporate banking was pretty staid back then. You were operated under the realm of kind of consortium lending. So you couldn't do too much of adventurous
But
stuff.
that's still a sought after jobs after.
It was very sought after, but at the end of the day, you have to see how you feel about it. So I said, I want to do something else. And I got quite restless. And then finally I think after 3 years or so, I did seek out. I had a couple of very interesting offers. All of them, I decided to get into the marketing kind of area. So there was a nice offer from Arvind Mills. There was a very good offer from PepsiCo Foods, who were just about starting in India. But then I finally joined this company called AMF Bowling, which was headquartered in Richmond, USA. And they wanted to make the family entertainment sport of 10-pin bowling popular in India. It was already now very popular in China at that point of time, and China-India comparisons continue. There were 10,000 lanes in China, and they said this will become 20,000. And in India, there were none. There were no automated lanes. There were a few 4-odd lanes somewhere, one in Delhi, one somewhere else in Ahmedabad or something, but there was no industry, and it seemed quite logical that we'll at least get in a couple of thousand. Well, next 4 years, I tried really hard. So I was their first employee. It became an entrepreneurial venture. I worked for them, but my fortunes largely depended on how much I sold. And at the end of finally 4 years, and really a lot of struggle, कहते हैं काफी जूते उसमें घिस गए, but we managed to get 200 lanes. So that was it. And the reality is, and I learned it the hard way, that to build a business on real estate in India is very, very hard, especially when there's no zoning. And you're competing that for the same real estate with that time, I think the big company, then Shoppers Stop or Haldiram or McDonald's, they were paying the same amount. So we didn't have any special exemptions, and we were space intensive. So it was very hard to give a very, very good return at that point of time. But finally something. So I think I had my maximum learning there, and I still didn't think I want to be an entrepreneur. So my panic after 4 years of that was I'd stopped learning, because AMF Bowling was not an intellectual giant. They made bowling equipment. They ran bowling alleys, headquartered in Richmond, Virginia, where my boss was. And so I actually seeked out a company where I could learn, because I was seeing my colleagues and friends and everyone else really, not only doing well, but learning a lot, developing a lot, becoming more, I would say, mature managers. And I found, so I joined G Capital. And so I still didn't know I want to be an entrepreneur. And in G Capital, I had a really exciting time. My remit was to find new avenues to distribute our retail financial products. So personal loans, auto loans, home loans, all of this, stuff like this. And naturally, the new avenue, this was way back in 99. So the new avenue was the internet. So I was formally introduced to the internet, and we were anyway, many of us were consuming the internet at that time, despite it being super slow, that dial-up modem, 128 kbps, that it's all true, and the broken connections. So I tried to then convince my bosses, my boss and then the super boss of GE, that we should build our own internet business. And we did get, to their credit, we got $1 million to do geindia.com, but it became a Friday project, a Saturday project. It didn't butter our bread. So finally, I was getting very frustrated at the lack of speed or interest in this. And on the other side, so much happening on the internet. For me, the more time I spent on it, I said, this is going to change everything. This is going to change everything. Like I feel about AI right now. But that time I was quite obsessed. And every night after dinner, I would be spending time on it. And so I just took the plunge on this thing. And that's when I realized The only way to do it is myself. And again, my driving force at that point of time was that the internet has to be cracked, and probably only a young agile company will be able to do it. And so then MakeMyTrip was born.
But you weren't a software engineer by education, right?
Not at all. I'd done a course from NIT way back. I was fortunate enough in my school in St. Columbus that I did computer programming. I learned basic programming in class 9 and 10 and 11th and 12th. So we were lucky that we had it introduced. We were the first batch ever. So maybe there's something about connecting the dots. So I could write programs in basic, which obviously language wasn't used, but flowcharting is the same. So I think it helps a lot in when you think through. You are able to have meaningful discussion with the developers, meaningful discussion with the product guys. They can't bullshit you that much about how long it'll take or how expensive it'll be to build something. But obviously, I can't code in any of these languages to save my life.
How did you zero down on travel? And within travel, how did you zero down on the idea of creating an online travel portal?
Yeah, no, that's a great story. So my first thought that time was that whatever is being done on the phone, and cut back to 2000, I know you were born.
I remember.
Yeah, but
I'm much older than what I look.
Really? Wow, that's it. Good, you look young. So at that point of time, I said whatever's being done on the phone is more likely to move online first.
So mostly yellow pages, people calling their travel agents to get a text.
So that was one. And the other business idea I had was stockbroking. So because what you did with your stockbroker at that point was called a stockbroker, you placed an order, and then he told you this much. He sent a boy to your office or wherever you were. You gave a check, and it was obviously we didn't have RTGS, online payments. We didn't have screen-based trading. All of this we all know. But I felt that, and then the other one was online travel for me. And I think the reason I went with online travel was probably more heart than head. But I did think on the head department that online stockbroking would probably end up belonging to a large financial house. Clearly, Nikhil and Nitin proven me wrong and built a phenomenal company out of Zerodha. But way back then, if you see it, for the longest time, ICICI Direct was doing a best job of this. Charles Schwab in the US. So I was looking at these and saying, probably better to do travel. And I think most importantly, I've always loved travel. Way before MakeMyTrip was started. Actually, goes back like really, really long way. And even today, that's my biggest joy even today.
On that note, I'm curious, why did you not think that this segment would, by that logic, would be owned by somebody like a Thomas Cook?
Same reason why GE India couldn't crack the internet. Exactly the same. So that I was convinced that a large legacy company, and it's no one's fault. It's just how you are structured and how you think. Like I said, where does your bread and butter come from? So if you are built and you're structured in selling holiday packages through a distribution network, largely offline, you'll do that. Thomas Cook is a very good company, but they're not going to crack online. No offense, but I don't see them cracking online. And now I've been competing with them for 25 years and they're still as offline as they were then, and nothing wrong with that. I think you should own that. What is wrong with that? You should be good at what you do. So I knew the large, big companies, and definitely not Cox and Kings, which doesn't even exist today. Some of the old other companies, they'll be very good at what they do, but adapting to this new medium is not that easy. It's not an e-brochure, as we all know. There's much more to it. And as you would have also seen, startups are the best placed to crack these things because then you are fundamentally built as a tech company who happens to be in travel. And even today, that's how we see ourselves.
Amazing. Take us through the first leg of your journey and MakeMyTrip, the initial 4 or 5 years. There are a lot of interesting stories that I have read in bits and pieces. And it would be very interesting for entrepreneurs and people of this age to, hear from you about those early days when capital was not accessible, when technology was not as evolved as it was, when adoption was super low. Would love to understand how challenging that journey was.
Sure, though I think too much of it is out there. So I'm surprised that you don't know, and I don't know how to make anything new out of it. Sometimes people say, you say something you haven't said. I said, I can't make it up. It is what it is. Well, yes, it's very instructive. It's very instructive because I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through the same thing. I spend a lot of time now mentoring young entrepreneurs. So I know that they spend a lot of time doing the same thing. And sometimes having less money available might be a blessing. You don't want no money, because then you can't last. But if you're less money, I think sometimes with the back towards the wall, you come up with better solutions. I think हमारा भी यही हाल था. We had a very nice start kickoff. I wrote a business plan. I didn't have too much money. I had some savings. I needed more money. E-Ventures was a big fund at that time, half SoftBank and half Star TV Murdoch. And they promised $2 million. It took some time in coming, but it came. So I did have some Doktak moments saying, when is this money going to come? Because I'd quit without anything. Actually, I signed an agreement on a paper napkin with Neeraj Bhargav of E-Ventures for the deal. And I just felt I could trust the guy, and he lived up to the trust. He's a dear friend now. So the early start was very good. 1st April 2000, went about first principles. They teach you in MBA, build a team, have to build a website. Let's outsource the website to someone who does a good job, give them this thing. So very quick, and got some good people. Some worked out, some didn't. Everything was going great. 7th October, we had launched the website for people coming to India, going out from India and traveling within India. So the original was that we want to be the preferred portal. That was the vision. To be the preferred portal was the term then for website. Preferred portal of choice, or to be the preferred portal for people traveling to India, from India and within. 2 was always important. These were largely NRIs. Why? The internet was still very early out here, but if you looked at the US, people were very comfortable using it already, and lots of NRIs. That time we had, I think, about 2-3 million people. That would have obviously numbers grown a lot, and they were comfortable to buy a ticket online. So we kicked off. The website was up, running. We had many crash moments and all, but I won't bore you with that. But I think it happens to many people. Website would keep crashing, got very technical why that was happening, and all kinds of stuff was going on. Calls every day with IBM because they had WebSphere as a platform, with Oracle for database, all of them together, not talking together. Too many threads opening up at the back end, website crashing as we went for more searches. That went on for a week at least till we cracked that problem. So finally, I think things were moving pretty fast and well till early 2001, when E-Ventures told us, hey guys, the internet is something which our LPs are now not that excited about, and we want the money back. They want the money back. And so my first question to them, and this is true, is what is an LP? I didn't know what an LP was at that point of time. So they explained to me who are the LPs, etc. And they want the money back. We love you, but blah, blah, blah. And we love you so much that 2 of us are willing to invest personally. If you want to make a fight of it kind of thing, we'll back you. So I said, no, definitely we want to fight. So they said, give us the money back. I said, the money is all spent because, why would I take your money if I had my own money? But then I understood the concept of distress valuation and a buyback, distress buyback. So we engineered a distress buyback. Very interesting story. And this is a great story. I think entrepreneurs would love this. So I tried to garner whatever money I could from angels. So the 2 guys from E-Ventures, they said, we'll give you some money. They cleared it with their board, and they fantastic, faith that they showed. Then there's Sandeep Singhal of Nexus and Anup Gupta of Nexus. And they really liked what we were doing. I think Neeraj couldn't do it because he had moved on to WNS. Travelocity was a client of WNS, and they said there's a conflict. And I was laughing, saying, kahan Travelocity or kahan hum, and how the world changes. Travelocity today as a brand is virtually gone. They got eaten up by Expedia. So anyway, long story short, I put some personal money, some friends. Rajesh, who was my CFO then, had said, listen, I'll also invest, blah, blah, blah. And
Your current CEO.
My current co-founder and CEO. And we all cobbled up money, and I basically couldn't even muster 50 lakhs. But 50 lakhs was quite a bit in 2001.
Yeah.
It was 46 lakhs. And I went to these guys and I said, this is what I have. And what follows is really funny. I think the meeting got over in 5 minutes. This acha, itna hai, ye wo, and all of that. Okay, fair enough. They had a piece of paper quickly drawn up, made me sign. I'm buying back all their equity, which was 70%.
Wow.
Which I'd got given away for 2 million.
20% of your company.
For $2 million.
Wow.
And that's, at that point of time, I needed that money. Bought it all back. Entirely management held with some angels for 46 lakhs. And I'm staring and saying, that's it, it's done. And only then it hit me that I could have gone in with probably half that amount and got it. Because really what they wanted, and there's a big lesson for entrepreneurs, is they wanted to wash their hand off this deal and potential liability. And I fully understand that today we do the same. When we acquire companies, we are selling companies, we're doing the same. They were far more evolved than, I was at that point of time. And anything was fine. But for us, and maybe that 1 rupee company, that could have happened also, right? That for whatever, I don't know, I didn't try it. So the big lesson is always put yourself in the shoes of the other side. What do they really want? And your negotiation will be much better. But anyway, got that. The next 4 years were crazy. 2 years trial by fire. Very, very little money. Took huge cuts. I said, okay, I'm happy to draw nothing from the company it went on for 18 months, zero, converted that to some stock. 2 of my senior colleagues, they said, we'll give up 50%, 30% of salaries, converted that to stock. And that's how they became co-founders in true spirit. And we made a fight out of it. And there was this team, which was 42 people. I gave them the bad news and the good news. Good news is we are making a fight. The bad news is we have very little money. Senior people take cuts. Junior people, no cuts, but no raises will come. Overnight, we shrunk to almost half. So we were left with 24 people, shrunk to a tiny mezzanine office at 11 rupees a square foot. I said it many times. I raised my hand. I could touch the ceiling. I swung left, right. It was like a long bogey. And all 24 of us sat there working for the next, I think, 2 years right there. Then this was Okhla phase 1, very cheap part of town. And then we managed to get one angel interested and all inbound. We weren't looking out. The first person was actually a customer from the US and NRI who gave us $150,000. And the next person was an offline travel person, one of the top birders of the country, Indian origin, but living in UK. And he gave us maybe, I think, about 150,000 pounds and just kept us going till 2005. And 2005, things dramatically changed. Firstly, advent of low-cost carriers. Air Deccan started it, others came. Internet became more prevalent in India. And on top of it, I think at that point of time, people were now believing in this medium. They were happy to drop their credit card online, etc. And suddenly .com became fashionable again. And I went back on my word. I'd said I'll never take venture finance again after my first experience. Thankfully, got a phenomenal partner and a long-term partner and a really good friend. So Safe went ahead with Safe, which is now Elevation. We had a very nice term sheet from Westbridge, which they've never forgiven me for, but they're very dear friends, but we went with Safe. And yeah, raised money, and the next 5 years just grew frenetically. We were growing at a crazy pace, and we IPO'd in 2010. But I think if I look back, the best time was the toughest time because you learn the most, you build the strongest bonds, and you test your conviction. If we didn't go through that, I think we would have crashed in 2008 with the financial crisis, or we would have definitely crashed in COVID because at that time travel business came to a halt. So I think that kind of really made us strong. कहते हैं ना मार के तो वही हालत.
Deep, I have a question on this part. And this is also coming from my own personal experience. So my first venture back in 2013, होता क्या है कि you start with a lot of energy and then somewhere down the line, things are not going exactly as you expected.
Sure.
Times as founders, you expect too much out of companies or yourself. Now, there are both school of thought. कभी-कभी लगता है कि you should not give up too early, you should not blink too early. But there are days जब आपको ये भी लगता है कि यार there's no point in wasting your, because the most precious commodity for an entrepreneur is the time, right?
Sure, for anyone.
Yeah.
In life. Yeah.
So how should an entrepreneur judge whether he or she is blinking too early or whether he or she should cut losses? जैसे मुझे 2016 में बिजनेस बंद करने के बाद 3 साल तक पैंग्स आते थे कि गलती कर दी.
Yeah.
Continue that.
Yeah. Seller's remorse. Yeah. Or
what are those signals that what is that framework that you would give to a struggling entrepreneur to assess whether it's time to cut losses or whether it's time to continue?
Yeah, this is the most important $6 million, $6 billion question. Like, this is the most important thing. And it's very hard. It's very hard to be prescriptive and to tell someone, aise hi karo, aise mat karo. Sure. Because only the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. Yeah.
But what are some of the guidelines?
But I'll tell you. For me, definitely eke it out as much as possible. If you think all else is dead, just keep stretching it out a bit more. We would go 1 month at a time. So if we were in for a month, we would say we are in for a month. Me, Kayur, Sachin, we'd say, okay, we are not looking back this month. we'll take stock next month. Your body language is very important to your team. Because if your body language is down and you're sitting in the same room or the same hall, everyone can see that things are not happening. So your body language is important. I'm not saying give them the wrong impression, but you've got to be fully in. If you're in for the month, you're in for the month. The other thing, I think a very important thing for me is be fixated on the problem you're trying to solve. But don't be so fixated and rigid on how to do it. So on the how, you have to be flexible. I think self-esteem is very important for an entrepreneur, but ego is a bad thing. Or I think there's a very fine line between stubbornness and resilience. And resilience is the single most important quality for an entrepreneur, which is to hang in there and to hang in there. You know that toy you have, you hit the toy, it comes back again, it comes back again. And people use analogies of Rocky getting beaten up and coming back again. We've all seen that.
Yeah.
I think that's what an entrepreneur has to be. But during that time, you have to figure out, I did that wrong. Maybe there's a different way to approach the same thing. So I think you need you should have full humility. You don't have to have any ego in saying, I'm ready to listen to someone else, do it this way, do it that way, all within the realms of doing, the right thing. But be flexible on the approach and don't lose sight of your vision. So I would say as much as possible, you can eke it out, because so many great companies never saw the light of day because someone gave up too early. And I'll tell you why. Like you were saying in your preamble, you said, yes, if we got $10 million that day, that was 2004, I would have taken the deal. It was from Zuji, which was half Travelocity, half Abacus. I would have taken the deal. I had agreed. The management held company, one would make probably $5 million way back in 2004 and said, "Theek hai," because we had gone through a struggle. But the moment they didn't go beyond 7.5, 8 million, I was just so relieved, because deep down inside, that gut feeling said, this is not the right thing. My co-founders back in office, when I came back, they were so relieved to hear we've not sold. Flipkart has a similar story. I heard it firsthand from Sachin, and we were on the same panel, where they gave their word and sold the company for 5 or 10 million. And went on to become probably India's most valuable internet company at one point of time. So I think you've got to stretch it. You've got to push it, because to shut down and to muster the energy to do it all over again is very, very hard. Then self-doubt creeps in. It says, oh my God, did I do it wrong? Pivot. Who's saying don't pivot? But the most valuable thing you have going is your team. If you have a good team and you're going together, you can change your entire business model, and people have done that. But if there's belief we are doing something in the right direction, the numbers are supporting it, the gut feeling is supporting it, customers seem to like our service, whether online, whether B2B or B2C, they keep coming back to us, kuch to theek kar rahe hai. Yeah. And most importantly, you're loving what you're doing. That's really important too, because then you can keep going. And that's why there's a lot to be said about starting early and starting young. Don't forget, when I started, I was 30 years old. And it's very different, your levels of risk taking, because your needs are much less, your family needs are much less, etc. Your fire, your pure energy.
और एक दिमाग में opportunity cost आती है.
Of course. Yeah. So people say that, and then they say later in life, I said, sure, you're more astute, you've seen the world, everything else. But there's a certain amount of hustle, let me tell you, won't be able to do. And I can tell you hand on heart, at 50, you can't do the same hustle. At least I could. Maybe some people can. Again, maybe you've reserved it to do it once. So people who have never done it before can hustle once at 50. But if you've done it like crazy once, it takes a lot of energy to do it again.
Sure. The first generation of internet companies in India, whether you guys or InfoEdge, were built with, I would say, a lot of resilience and an environment where capital was not in excess.
No, quite scarce.
Yeah. There was a phase in India where the scenario was exactly the opposite. There was a lot of negative startup journalism as well. Capital is available for cheap. How much of that is, let's say, narrative, or is it actually so easy for anyone to build today? Is the job of an entrepreneur suddenly become easy because there's capital available? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a conundrum. What's the right amount? And I always say just enough. But clearly, it all goes through cycles. And let's face it, all of these cycles of capital being available, venture finance being available, etc., valuations, they're all coming from the pools of capital in the West, which is largely in the US. So the original pools of capital, whether they're endowment funds, whether they're big LPs, everything else, if that market is doing well, it's causing these mini ripples, it's causing these big waves, everything is happening. The other reality of life, which is not great, is that there is momentum investing. I think 80-90% of the investors are momentum investors, which is what is hot and sexy, usi theme mein paise dalte jao. It's a reality of life. Nothing wrong with it. We all probably do it. But there are about 10-20% who are saying, I'm willing to go against the tide, against the run of play. I'm willing to take a bet because not only do I like the entrepreneur, this could be a new space. And they are the real investors, the guys who spot the first in that cycle. And normally they end up being the biggest winners too. And that's why it's called venture. So in good times, you will definitely raise money more easily. So it's good for your time, but you might raise too much money. You might also raise too much money. You might raise too much money, which creates bad habits. You hire people who are very highly paid. When a downturn, you have to do a down cycle. Those people run away. You spend too much money on marketing. Marketing should only be done when you're totally ready. Your product is 100% ready. Then you open your door. दुकान तब खोलो जब people give you one shot. लोग अंदर आएंगे कह रहे हैं अभी तो माल मतलब ऐसे ही है. They won't come back because they हाँ try किया था. So I think people put the cart before the horse when you have too much money and you make not the best decision, suboptimal decision. When you have less money, you evaluate every dollar, every rupee. So I think there's a value to both. But in tough times, if you need money, and so what's the solution? The solution is raise a bit more, always have enough buffer. I used to say 6 months. Now people are saying have one year buffer cushion. Because otherwise what happens is you don't have a very good negotiating power. You end up, investors find out very quickly how much money you have. They string you down a quarter or something like that. And soon you won't have much power to get a better, deal. So you might make some suboptimal choices. So definitely pick capital when you can. Giving up a few percentage of equity doesn't matter. Try to get the best kind of investor. I think that makes a huge difference. What is the best kind of investor? The person sitting on your board can call the shots. Not that person sitting on your board has to go and convince an IC about something. I think that's very important. And the person can add value to what you're doing. I think that's really key because, I think in the early stage, especially in the private stage of a company, to align your goals is hugely important. If you can align your goals with the investor, it's hugely important. Can be a huge ally. But they've seen the world. They're seeing also a lot of companies. So there's a lot you can gain from them, but you'll get it only if you're willing to open up and have a frank discussion. Something bad goes wrong, you have to be the first one to give the bad news to your investor. If they hear it from elsewhere, lose trust in you. It's normal. It's just human nature. They're saying, this guy is hiding something. This girl is hiding something. That's human nature.
Sure. Deep, this insight that adversity builds character. This is, I would say, it's not only true for organization, but it is also true for people. And I have a follow-on question to that because I think you are uniquely positioned to answer that question, both from a perspective of an entrepreneur and from a perspective of a father. And I always keep on thinking, I have a 6-year-old daughter. Her annual school fee for the fanciest IB school in Bangalore that I can afford is more than what I've paid throughout my higher education, I would say. Of course, that's before inflation adjusted. At times, I keep on thinking the same thing about my startup as well as for my child. यार इन लोगों ने तो एडवर्सिटी देखी नहीं है या इज इट राइट फॉर मी कि सब कुछ जो भी चाहिए हो the moment you ask it is available. What's your take on that?
A phenomenal question, and I think as parents we all struggle with this same thing. See, the reality is in India, in my generation, I'm 55 and probably you've seen the same thing, that our parents had it tougher than us. All the professionals, at least, we have it easier than them because they worked very hard. Their parents had it even tougher. My grandparents, in fact, both my parents were born in Pakistan now. And they both came to India then. So we saw partition, they saw all of that. So it was very, very tough times, rebuilt their lives out here. My dad went to a Hindi medium school for the longest time, taught himself English. Now he's writing books in English. So it's a very different, you can't relate to it. What did the one thing they wanted to do? Make sure that their kids get the best education and whatever comfort they can. Now, maybe they didn't make so much that they could completely spoil you. Thank God for that. But they could give you whatever. All parents. Now, we are doing the same thing. it's very hard not to. So it's not the kid's fault, it's not the parents' fault. Actually, it's definitely not the kid's fault for that your daughter's IB school when she's 6 costs. That's not her fault. That's inflation and everything else, right? And IB didn't exist. But I think for us to, as parents, to help kids realize the value of money, that you said the moment they ask for something, give it, that's a really bad idea. I think there's something to be said about working for it, the reward for it, whether it's grades in school, whether it's good behavior, blah, 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 and you want to really look forward. Get it on your next birthday, you'll get that gift. It's not like you want it now, you get it now. That I think really will, like my kids are 25 and 23. I'm very happy to say that they understand the value of money. Like they are, while they may not be today standing entirely on their own because they're still kind of making their careers, but they are very, very bothered about how much they spend. And thankfully, it's come from somewhere where, they feel guilty. In fact, we are telling them sometimes like, what the hell? And then, no, not worth it. It's not worth it. And I love that. And my wife loves that when we hear that there is value of money. It's not, they obviously know they have money, but they also, the big desire for any human being is to create it on their own. So these guys, I think anyone realizes the real satisfaction is creating it on their own. They almost don't want to. So give them the launch pad, give them just enough. If tomorrow they have a good business idea, you can play the VC or whatever else you want to. But education is by far the best, I think, investment you can make. And one should go overboard on that. But the other things, I think we have to make sure that they realize the value. And thoda fight, thoda struggle, thoda hustle. These are good qualities.
So, Deep, there was a phase where you were thinking about selling your company at $10 million. What was the inflection point when you realized that this could be really, really big and you should stay the course?
I have to be honest, I think 2005, when we raised, there were 2 or 3 inflection points. Firstly, right in the beginning, I definitely I didn't think we'll one day be this big a company, I have to be honest. But I thought we'll build the best travel. I had no doubt that we'll build the best online travel company, OTA in India, for sure. That I was sure, because, if you're going to be focused on something, you might as well make the best. Good team came together, everything. The amount of hard work we put into it, I had no doubt. Then 2001 onwards, I got very disheartened कि बहुत ही छोटा business रह जाएगा, but fight करते हैं. We'll keep at it. Ready to sell, like you said, 2004. I think when we got capital in 2005, Safe became a really good investor and also kind of helped me realize that the full potential could be much, much bigger also. So I have to give them credit. Next round, we got Sierra and Helion coming in. Next round, we got Tiger coming in. So it was, and every year there was a round. So it was all becoming pretty heady and pretty quick, was getting larger and larger. So we were having these successive fast rounds and they were happening fast at better valuations. The company was growing fast and all these investors were also bringing a very big global perspective, especially someone like Tiger was bringing a whole global perspective. So did Sierra, and Tiger was saying, oh my God, this company can be so big. And before we realized it, and that was a big inflection point, I think early 2010, actually I distinctly remember, we had our January meeting, which was for the last quarter gone by, and Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who's really been a friend, philosopher, guide, he was on my board as an independent. And Sanjeev said, he looked at the numbers and in his typical style, he says, guys, you guys are ready to go public. And I said, what are you saying? And it was
He
me.
would have done his IPO by then.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah. He went 2007. Yeah. So me and Rajesh were in the room and Rajesh was CFO, I was CEO. I said, really? He's saying, yeah, look at these numbers. Your 40 million revenues going to 60 million. Broadly 400 million in gross bookings going this thing. Next year, you're going to be the size we were, if not bigger, when we went IPO. So we said, wow, hadn't thought of it, but really. And we immediately got to work, met the bankers, met the lawyers, had the all kickoff meeting in Feb. And in August 2010, we actually went public. At that point of time, you realize that this can be much bigger. During the roadshow, also, you realize it can be much bigger. And still, sometimes you don't realize how big. The whole space is also changing. But yes, at that point of time, one realized that it's not just ticketing. Hotels will also move online, and they had started to. Holiday packages will move online. So I think then you start getting, and also then you, I think, lock horns with a lot of global peers. While they are much larger, you realize when you spend time on their site or app and everything else, they're not that different. America is just a much larger market. So Expedia was much bigger. Booking in Europe was much bigger. C-Trip in China was much bigger. They were much bigger and more developed online markets. So you realize, but when it comes down to the user experience, you are there. I mean, so then that is a very heady feeling, and that also means you can do a lot more.
And in that sense, listing on the Nasdaq and not India would have also helped you, right?
Definitely, definitely. The kind of inputs one got, it was much tougher physically, and it's more expensive making those trips. But the kind of inputs that you get from your investor community, the analyst community, is really good.
Wow. And this is Q4 2013. You have done your IPO, a major milestone in the lifetime of a company like yours. और उसके 3 महीने के बाद your stock takes a beating. Back to the $14 price at what you listed. People are writing, I mean, some people are writing obituaries about you.
Of course.
How was that phase?
That's very, very hard because you really fall down. It's a fall from grace. You're sailing high. And I always say when you're winning and you're sailing high, you're not really learning and thinking. You're saying, I'm untouchable. And then you come crashing down for various reasons. Here it was, I think, largely catalyzed and precipitated with the failure of Kingfisher. And we were largely dependent on the domestic air industry. That was our bulk. And Kingfisher was a big player then. They went down and the whole industry, people were questioning, oh my God, like, are there enough players? Indian aviation is down, not enough competition, etc. So that triggered it. And we realized that we are exposed badly and too kind of dependent on this sector. But I think it came at a good time where we had some money and we realized that we have to accelerate the movement of hotels rooms online in a massive way.
Well, at that time, you were highly indexed on the air.
Till then, yeah, the hotels were still small.
Okay.
And I think that just lit a fire under our backside ke ye banana hai. Today, I'm very happy to share, since the last now 3 or 4 years, pre-COVID also, we started getting majority of our revenues
about
from non-air.
Hotels and packages.
Yeah, and that was a very conscious thing. And now if you look at domestic air, international air has enough competition.
Yeah.
Domestic air, we are just trying to de-emphasize because you don't make money. It's a great place to acquire customers, but you hardly
margin
make it.
Profiles are very different for the hotel.
You make virtually no money. Yeah, so that's the thing. But that helped us too. So I think if you're willing to learn, but it was a tough time. You face the market, you're down. Investors, no one likes to lose money, and definitely not big investors because they're not looking good. And so the questioning is hard. There's frustration. People are going to sell your stock. So you're usually used to a meeting. You'll do a meeting and the whole road show. So one day, let's say in Boston, you met 8 investors. You've done a group meeting. By the end of the day, you actually start seeing some movement in the stock and say, we did good. Basically, they start placing orders. Here, the opposite was happening. The more you're meeting people are actually selling. And you're saying, what's going on? So you can't sometimes go against the current, against the tide. The only way to do that is to answer back with performance. So I think there were tough few quarters, but we came back, and then next time we came back, it was very steady, solid growth. And then off late, of course, it's been the best time.
और उसके बाद Deep, there was a phase when you were a public company and the rules of the game were different for you.
Yeah.
But sometime in 2015 onwards or 2014 onwards, India was minting unicorns.
Yeah.
A lot of unicorns in the travel, mobility, and hotel space as well. And आप लोग, I think, 700 million types valued थे.
Possible, yeah.
How was that phase for you and your team? Because founder will still have that maturity of, let's say, not getting swayed. But
yeah, I think, to be honest, I would always tell people, listen, valuations are very ephemeral. Even today, I tell them, either the market valuation is not a reflection of what you're doing. We know that. It will over-reward you and it will over-punish you at times. Again, going back to what is the momentum, what is the mood of the market overall. You are still doing well. But if you continue to do well over time, it'll work out. Also, public market valuation, particularly in a market like the US, is a much truer representation. See, private market valuation is based on only one thing, your last round and who came in. There's no one else making a market every day and saying, this is the valuation. You might have raised money at 2 billion or 5 billion, but the next round you might have to do a down round. But in public market, you get a validation every minute of what is the true price of the market. If it's not, if it's cheap, people will buy. If it's expensive, people will sell. तो वो private में नहीं हो रहा कभी भी. वो तभी होगा जब आपका next round होगा.
Yeah.
तो तभी पता चलेगा. So yes, for people sometimes they'd feel a little this thing. I mean, we're all human, but I think one was pretty comfortable in the fact that being public, listed, and enjoying a valuation of about $1 billion is probably far more valuable than a private space, couple of billion. Yeah. So that's and look at time. Over time, you realize, it all evens out. Yeah.
Amazing. Let's now come to the current state.
Yeah.
What is MMT now, or what is Go MMT now? How does the business look like? And what's the share of business between various verticals? What are the margin profiles?
Yeah, so I think we are really, really well positioned as a group right now. So we also went through another good phase we should talk about, which I didn't mention, which was when on the hotel side, we were competing with a private company, privately held, 100% held by NASPers and going gangbusters on discounting hotels. This is Go Ibibo.
Yeah.
And we were public. So हम 2 साल, 2.5 साल लड़ते रहे, and it was very hard. Why? You're public, you can't discount. You can't lose because people, you have given them guidance not only on growth on revenues, you've given them guidance on profitability also. So your hands are kind of tied. It's like fighting with one hand tied behind your back. So it was a tough phase, and finally I thought maybe the best thing to do, because they showed no signs of slowing down. NASPER seemed to be like a bottomless pit of money.
Yeah.
So finally, I processed now. So finally made an interesting way of making an offer and saying, listen, we should find a way, and did the deal. And happy to say we did it. We also got a fantastic company in the bargain in Redbus along with it. So today the group is various brands. So MakeMyTrip, of course, which is our flagship brand, premium brand. Go Ibibo, which is more our challenger brand, youthsy brand, younger brand. They also compete with each other, by the way. Sometimes MakeMyTrip and Go Ibibo are competing, which is fine. Redbus, which is the by far, it enjoys the same kind of position MakeMyTrip does for domestic air and hotels than it does for, especially down south. Bangalore, it's a huge brand. I think it'll be their single largest city, and then also Chennai and Hyderabad, because there's a lot of bus travel there, intercity, overnight bus travel. So they are the first word and the last word out there. And then we have a bunch of smaller companies also. So we've become very big in corporate travel. We took on corporate travel about 5 years ago. We bought Quest to Travel, which was a full-blown version for large corporate, but we had also built MyBiz on our own. MyBiz is self-service SME travel. That has become a very big part. Then we have majority with Book My Forex. We think Forex is a very big part of it, and online Forex needs. Like whenever I'm traveling, I usually load up my Forex card at the airport or on the way to the airport or whatever, because now you don't have to worry about these things beforehand. And there are a bunch of other companies. Recently, Savari was a company that we also acquired, and we acqui-hired, because wherever there's a good founder, we like to have the founder. Book My Forex, keep the founder as long as you can, because only founders realize the value of good founders. Big companies come in and they say whatever. And most of these companies implode without good founders. So like I said, now we get majority of our revenues from hotels and packages, and really hotels, standalone online hotels, in India, domestic and international. The other very exciting line of business, which we started up fairly recently, it was there before COVID, and I was a big pusher for it. No one took it that seriously, was homestays and villas or alternate accommodation. That became now it's become a significant part post-COVID. During COVID, everyone said we want to go in a remote place, and India is really opening up to that market. So that's become fairly significant. International air has become quite big. Road transport, intercity cab and airport cabs. That is a very logical extension of what we do. So we are fundamentally trying to map the customer's journey and see the travel journey and the planning. Where can we add value? Also, what I'm most excited about is how we got tech potent. So there's AI now everywhere. You can book a ticket speaking in Hindi or English, and soon we will be able to do much, much more. It's not like we are developing those large language models, but every week something new is now coming out, making you think of the possibilities of what can be done. So it's very exciting. It's also scary at times, but I think we'd like to be in the camp of these are opportunities and the first one who does a good job of it. So now our CTO tells us that more than 10% of our code is being now written by AI already. So it's pretty exciting to see how we're taking some of these on. And I think we're very well positioned, but I also like to caveat by saying the moment you think you're comfy is the moment something will come and rock that boat. So last year's been great. Of course, then, Mr. Donald Trump came and he's done some damage in the markets, which the carnage is there. So the last month, if I look at it, it's been crazy. But then valuation is not a reflection of how well you're doing. Company has been doing excellently, I think, knock on wood, the best ever since our post-COVID phase. And so, yeah, I think the best is yet to come for sure.
Well, on that note, when I made this trip from Bangalore to Delhi, this time I did not ask my assistant for help. I'm coming to meet you, so let me plan the whole travel on the MakeMyTrip app. Right?
How was it?
Oh, it was phenomenal. My idea was to come up with something smart, and you normally appears, smart when you give a critical feedback or when you point a flaw. I wasn't able to find anything that I was.
You made my day. Thank you very much.
I mean, if I have to nitpick, the only thing that I would probably point out is I wasn't able to make the full payment to the driver from the app.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The booking experience was seamless, but
should be possible. That's a great point. I will look into it. I love getting customer feedback because I think we'll only improve when we keep listening to consumers.
Yeah, but the whole integrated experience, the app knew when my flight is, flight is on the line.
Yeah.
That
But
was,
coming from someone like you, because you're an entrepreneur and you look at this very critically, like you said, you wanted to appear intelligent is one, but you intuitively are thinking of what else could be done.
Yeah.
But not being able to make the full payment is a good.
But it was far superior an experience compared to giving instruction to my, let's say, assistant. I mean, it's just so easy. So
Yeah, please don't fire your assistant. There are many other things he or she can do very well.
Yeah. Deep, tell me something. Now you have, I would say, stepped back as the operator. Now you're taking a strategic role in the group. But as a founder, it's very tempting. Whenever you see something,
Absolutely.
even if a bug or a feature or something that a competition is doing, it's very tempting to get involved, right?
Yeah.
And get back in the, I would say, on the driving seat.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that? How do you draw that line? Because now
it is tough. It is tough. Well, firstly, I haven't stopped from giving the critical feedback. But how they fix it is their problem, which I'd started doing even earlier. Like, I will give it to the product folks. I'll give it to the tech folks and say, this is an issue. We can do better. How you're going to do it is yours, but we definitely can do better. So I think that part stays. But the bigger thing, what you said, the moment you decide to step down, firstly, I could only do it because someone like Rajesh was there.
Yeah.
Where I felt very comfortable for, he was CFO, then he was CEO, then he was CEO, I was group CEO. There was a lot of overlap anyway.
It's far difficult for a founder to bring a professional CEO from the
founder. But this guy had actually, kind of invested in us then and had earned his co-founder stripes long back. So once you're giving someone that mantle, then I think you have to give it fully. So I told Rajesh, and I talk about it openly, that listen, I am available 24/7, but you have to call me for the meeting and tell me which one you want me to attend. I'm not going to call any meetings beyond what is scheduled or what some people stuff, which I always do, or some sustainability stuff, which I'm still doing, etc. Like those stuff, and the board is there anyway. But anything else you want me involved, you have to call me. It could be just a marketing campaign. You want me to take a look at it. It could be a new product, a new feature, a new this thing. And he knows that, and we catch up all the time. I still come in once, twice a week. Couple of times a week I'm here. He and I'll catch up separately. I'm connected with obviously everyone. So I think, but you have to let the person then run it. You give the whole, I think you have to give it. For me, somehow that's not been, I haven't been feeling the, anxiety, separation anxiety or those kind of pangs. Maybe because it's Rajesh, maybe because it's still very new, but I am quite careful not to step on anyone's toes.
Let me flip the question for you, Deep. What are 2 or 3 guiding principles that you would give to a professional CEO who's walking into a new role where a founder or a promoter is taking a step back?
It's really hard. We thought about that role too. And we've got people, laterals from outside, very senior. It's hard not because they don't have the skills. And it's hard not because you don't have it down pat like a large professional corporate Indian or multinational where everything is there by the rule book, or they're used to CEOs coming in from outside. It's hard because of culture. It's hard because of the culture you built internally, of the reason why a lot of people work in the company, especially those who joined you early days, are because they know that they have a connect. They know they treat this company like their own. And they can do that only because of that invisible bond that they have with the founders. It's an invisible bond. They might be 3 levels removed, but they have a bond. They can walk up and say, listen, ye theek nahi hai, wo theek nahi hai, you have their back, etc. If you change that suddenly, you get a professional CEO, I think that those bonds start getting stretched and challenged, and they might snap. And then when people start leaving, they don't tell you why. But before you know it, your culture might start changing. So it's a very hard thing to do. I don't know too many companies who manage to do that in India. Overseas, it's accepted. In India, it's pretty hard.
Deep, when was the last time you tried Googling your name? Because I have a follow-on question to that.
I don't think I've probably done that like once my kids were telling me something, but I haven't done that in a long time.
So if you Google yourself today, the first few articles are your name on the Hurun's rich list.
Ouch.
And the real estate transactions that you have done, the market transactions.
Well, that's disgusting.
So how would you define your relationship with money and wealth?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a necessity, money. It's, I get that. But it's one of those classic things, too much can create more problems. So I think I just treat it as it's there, now put it to good use. And for me, good use is a large chunk of it should be given back. I think we owe it. I didn't deserve all of this. Got more than one ever imagined one would. So I'm very happy and quite active on the philanthropy space. Don't need to talk a lot about it, but yeah, one is active there and, invest the rest of it or whatever. And yeah, I don't even think about it that much. I'm quite bad at that, by the way. I'm very bad at the personal financial planning. My wife tells me just so many times, it's disgusting how lagging behind I am on anything on that. So, but it is what it is.
Let's do a rapid fire, Deep.
Okay.
So yes or no answers or short answers
Sure.
that comes to your mind. Whenever space travel becomes reality and MakeMyTrip starts offering space travel, would you be the first one to go or would you wait for customer reviews?
I think I'll wait a bit. Not customer reviews. I'll just wait for Musk to go first and to come back, and I'll go with the trust. I will go for sure. Will I be the very first person? No, I think we'll like to launch it or sell the services of top providers, and definitely where they've been tested out. Yeah.
How far do you think we are from a reality when people start taking virtual vacation with the advent of technology, VR, headsets?
AR, VR. This I'm very sure about. It's only going to whet your appetite for more. The real deal about travel, leisure travel, is the people you meet, the food you eat, the aromas you sniff, smell, what you feel. It's a state of mind. You're not going to get that no matter the best. I've tried out, Apple's new set and everything else. It only whets your appetite to go and make that scuba dive, to go and do that bungee jump, to do that because you're saying, oh my God, that feeling you're only going to get when you do that really. I know I get the power of AR. It's not like I don't get it and of VR. But the real deal is only when you're there. So I don't think it's ever. I think it's a technology-proof industry. In fact, the more we get into tech, and the more we get into an era of abundance, more time people will have, more money people will have, and therefore more travel will happen.
And my last question to you is, and I know I'm asking this question to a 55-year-old guy with the energy of a 25-year-old person, but
25, no, maybe 35.
But by the time you hang your boots, what are one or two items on a professional level that are still unchecked? What are one or two milestones that you would want the group to achieve or yourself to achieve?
Yeah, I've always pushed the group and pushed everyone in the company to say, listen, we will be a truly good company or a great company when every customer is a brand ambassador. And I think we have a way to go for that. So for me, that is my North Star. And I keep moving towards that. Like what you told me is a great experience, 90%, 95% good, but. So that but has to be worked on, but the rest was good. And coming from you, it really means a lot because you're a discerning customer. So I think we have work to do on that one. Financial milestones aren't important for me. They are a resultant. They are a derivative. If you do the right things, that will happen. So I think if we get the first one done, and there are companies like that, I think you and I are using probably Apple products. That's that kind of company. I mean, of course, off late, people are getting a little now. It could do more and could do better. But for the longest time, people love their products so much they talk about it. Or I'm a Whoop user and I talk about Whoop because I think it's really cool. Or it could be some of your favorite brands that you wear on clothes or blah, 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 or foods or whatever. So I think we have to get to that status.
Awesome. Thank you for doing the episode with us, Deep. And more importantly, thank you for being so candid. And I hope our viewers are as inspired as I am.
Yeah, no, thank you. I had a great time, great questions, and my very best to Emversity. I'm looking forward to great things. I think you're a special entrepreneur and you're really going to hit the ball out of the park.
Thank you.